This is why Romans is really pivotal, is because Paul lays out what the foundation of Christianity is here. He lays out and puts forward the foundation of the Christian faith. So if there is one book of the Bible, people will say, well, why don't I just read the Gospels? Well, the Gospels tell about the life of Jesus. The letters of Paul go into great detail about what that life, death, and resurrection now means.
Right, the implications for our life.
The Gospels give you that, but not in explicit theological, personal, faith-relating detail. Paul, this is why we need Paul. And therefore, it was Romans with Luther. It was Romans with Augustine in the 20th century. Well, let's go about a generation after Luther. Charles Wesley, or John Wesley, what we would know as the founder of the Methodist Church, came about. His theological faith breakthrough came from listening to Martin Luther's preface to the book of Romans.
Interesting.
And so it was Romans again. Yeah, so this is important. What we're going to go through in the next number of podcasts is to understand what the gospel is. Gospel is like an English word. I don't know why we still use that term here. Fascinating, in Luke 2, when the angel says to the shepherds, behold, I bring you good news. We say good news. We don't have the angel saying, it's the same word. Why doesn't the angel say, behold, I bring you gospel? But I don't know why we translate it that way, why it's not like good news or good message. But it's important to it's translated gospel here. But that word can be kind of confusing to the modern day English person. It just means good news, good message, good report, a good report. Wouldn't it be great for a church to memorize those? How about a Sunday school or like a kids' church with your kids? Memorize these early primitive Christian creeds that probably go back to the 30s, if not to the first several years after the resurrection of Jesus. Paul's writing this in 55, but he's verse 3 and 4, he's probably quoting a creed that goes back into the 30s. Dozens of you talk about the gospel and justification and churches, and it's like, well, how do I find a church that is gospel-centered like that? What should I look for? Gerhard Ferde of Luther Seminary, my teacher, said that he calls the Holy Spirit God the verb. God's Holy Spirit, he calls. How does he call? Through a voice. Hey, you. Much like we get called today, he gathers.
Yeah.
So he brings us to himself. Enlightens, that doesn't mean like you get smarter. It means that he enlightens you, the Holy Spirit enlightens you to who Jesus Christ is. Sanctifies, sets you apart, makes you holy through the blood of Christ. And then the last one that's often overlooked is that he keeps. He makes you belong, right? And you belong for the first time. Truly. Like C.S. Lewis said when Christ came into his life, he said, I felt the door that I've been knocking on my whole life finally opened, and I was welcomed into the heart of everything. And that's what it means to belong, because so often how do we think that we don't belong? We're not worthy. We don't have the credentials. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not fast enough, or whatever. I haven't lived well enough. And the gospel sweeps all of that aside and says, in the most important opinion that matters, you belong now. And you don't belong because you're a particular, ethnicity or a particular intelligence. Because you've achieved, you belong because of the achievement of another, which is Jesus Christ. And so now you belong, and you can know you belong because your belonging isn't predicated upon your deserving to be belonging. It's predicated upon what Jesus Christ has done. So you can be certain that you belong because it's nothing that you've done.